All right, a new week of Locked On Brewers. You've got a lot to get to with minor league camp opening up this week, and of course, your CBA updates and mailbag coming up. This is Locked On Brewers.
You are Locked On Brewers, your daily Milwaukee Brewers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday, everybody. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. This is Locked On Brewers, along with Vinny, former Milwaukee Brewer. I'm Dominic Cotroneo, Bally Sports Wisconsin statistician. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, more odds, and more lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. I am still in Arizona if you are watching on YouTube, as we're getting ready to cover minor league camp coming up, opening officially tomorrow. We've also got CBA updates coming up, and of course today is Mailbag Monday, so we will be getting to a handful of questions from you, the listener, right here on Locked On Brewers. Don't forget to like, subscribe, tell your friends about us, subscribe to us on YouTube, drop a rating if you're so inclined to on Apple Podcasts. It really does help us out a long way. So Vinny, it's been a few days since we last chatted. A lot's gone down, and also not a lot has gone down. Our last episode was the reaction to the CBA officially not being ratified and the first week of the season being canceled. So in the aftermath now, a few days since, how have you been? How have you been feeling over the weekend?
Yeah, no, we took a little bit of a hiatus, I guess you would say, just because I needed it, really. I think you needed it as well. And so, yeah, just been trying to regroup with the prospect of not having baseball at the beginning of April and maybe not even the entire month of April. We don't even know what's going to come of this, but that's how I've been feeling. I just don't know really what's coming next, and needed a little break from talking about it. So how about you?
Yeah, same way. I obviously had something to keep my mind off of it with calling games on Pac-12 Network. Those games are done now for me. I got to call 3 games here locally on television. Had the Oklahoma State game with the legendary Andy Lopez, former head coach at U of A, also at Pepperdine in Florida, one of the only coaches in college baseball history to win a national title at 2 different schools. He's an awesome cat. Got to chat with Josh Holliday. Got to chat with Willie Bloomquist, who's now the manager or the head coach of Arizona State. Travis Buck's down there now. Matt Holliday, Josh's brother, is now coaching with Oklahoma State. Robin Ventura is their first base coach. It was a real who's who on the field out at Phoenix Muni last week. And lo and behold, I'm sitting there with Andy Lopez, and who comes up to the booth but the one, the only ASU legend, Pat Murphy, of course, Brewers bench coach. So I got to chat his ear off a little bit. Hey, I'm not a Brewers employee. I can talk to him. We can hang out with him all I want, but he's awesome. Pat was great. Murph was, one of a kind. It was cool to see him because Murph's son actually plays for Arizona State right now, and he coached Willie Bloomquist while he was at Arizona State. And on the other side, Oklahoma State's Josh Holliday was an assistant under Murph back in the ASU Omaha days. So it's kind of a whole little fun circle. It was good to see him over the week.
Yes, he's got quite the resume, especially with players that he has coached or managed. And don't forget about who he coached at the University of Notre Dame was the one and only Craig Counsell, the Brewers manager as well. So I actually didn't know Murph was a coach, the head coach at University of Notre Dame until, I've known for over a decade now, but I always thought he was just the ASU head coach and the legendary ASU head coach. He's done a phenomenal job everywhere he's gone. Yeah, Murph is a one of a kind. Little shout out to Mike Piccaro though too. Yeah, he's a Racine guy. Did you get a chance to converse with him, Dom?
Yeah, I chatted with him before my first game. So my first 2 games were solo, and then the last game was with Andy, and he was great. Shout out to listening. Appreciate the listenership all the way out in the Valley of the Sun where I'm from. We exchanged I'm working with the mayor of Racine, Vinny Rattino. So it's pretty great. But on a brighter note, as we're gonna get into CBA notes here in a little bit, but. This week, if you're listening here on Monday, is the official opening of minor league camp. A quick reminder, no matter what happens with the CBA, minor leaguers are not impacted, as specifically guys that are not on the 40-man roster. So minor league opening day is on track. So everything's going to be just fine with that. Of AAA Nashville, of course, AA Biloxi, High A Wisconsin now up in Appleton, and of course down in Low A in Zebulon, North Carolina. So all of those are going to start right on time. Really do encourage y'all to support these teams. It's their first normal year in a long time. Given 2020 got canceled last year, they had to be delayed by a month, whole bunch of protocols. And, I can't wait to get out to camp today. If you're listening on Monday, I'll be out there all week, and we'll be getting some photo and video and hopefully some interviews with some guys. And really excited to just be out at the ballpark again and hear the crack of the bat and get everything back to normal. What were those days like for you, Vinny, your first arrival to camp and getting to the backfields?
So it was different every year. When I first signed, I was a fish out of water coming from a Division III school, UW La Crosse, and I signed out of as a non-drafted free agent out of an open tryout. So I was just totally fish out of water, hoping I didn't get released every single day. And so that was just a dream come true to just be out there and just wearing a Brewers uniform, getting paid, albeit a little bit of money as a minor leaguer, to play baseball. Then that following year, I showed up early to instructional league or mini camp, I guess. It was pre-spring training mini camp, and that was awesome, right? Because I was kind of picked and chosen as one of the guys to just to get a little bit extra work in. And then the following year, I went to Major League camp. And so, yeah, it's awesome. It's just everything about it, just showing up, coming from the doldrums of winter, right, in Wisconsin in February, and showing up in Arizona where it's absolutely perfect out every single day at this time of year. There's like a dome over the entire valley. There's not even an insect. I always kind of joke about that. It's the greatest place on earth during these months. But yeah, it's awesome. It's an awesome place to be, especially wearing that uniform and getting ready for a new season. It's quite the experience.
So we'll be out there all week, and we'll stay Locked On Brewers on our Twitter account. We'll see all the coverage there. And just a reminder, we do have a lot of minor league content coming up as far as the rest of this month, given there's not much baseball, Major League Baseball we can really talk about these days. We do have some Major League Baseball stuff planned in the works, but we are going to start kind of looking a little bit to the minor leagues, since they're the only ones actually something to be excited about. And just a refresher, the top 10 preseason prospects according to Baseball America. Number 1's Aaron Ashby. He still has his rookie status for the 2022 season, which is why he's still considered a prospect. Bryce Terang is number 2. Sal Frelick is number 3. Garrett Mitchell is number 4. Tyler Black is number 5. Edbert Perez is number 6, Jefferson Caro number 7, Joey Weimer number 8, Ethan Small number 9, and Jackson Chourio is number 10, according to Baseball America. We'll get eyes on all those guys this week, so keep it locked on Locked On Brewers for all of that content. Just want to take a quick second to remind you that BetOnline, and with football season being over, of course, basketball, here we are. It is March. You know what that means. Pro and college hoops are heating up. You've got the latest odds, totals, and player performance props to where the next fired coach is going to land. BetOnline.net is the number one spot for all of your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for all of your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline.net has your source for hockey, boxing, and UFC odds right there on their mobile device or on the desktop website. You can see all the trends and action at BetOnline, where the game starts. So, Vinny, as today, or yesterday, I should say, the meeting, we heard about a meeting for the next stages of CBA. We do have to get to this point in the show where we talk about the negative stuff, that we are still in a lockout, shockingly, I know. But there was a meeting between the Players Association and Major League Baseball's lead negotiators in New York City at the league office. It was about an hour and a half. And, well, no, the lockout is not over. I'll get into the specifics here in just a little bit, but I want to get your reaction to the quote that came after the fact from Major League Baseball's PR representative, Glenn Kaplan. He says, quote, "We were hoping to see some movement in our direction to give us some additional flexibility and get a deal done quickly. The Players Association chose to come back to us with a proposal that was worse than Monday night and not designed to move the process forward." He continued, "On some issues, they even went backward. Simply put, we are deadlocked," end quote. That's obviously harrowing to hear and very disappointing, but I just want to get your immediate reaction hearing that from Major League Baseball's PR representative.
I mean, I don't know what to think about that, because it's like they went backwards from their their latest proposal? Does that even make sense? I don't know
Right.
if that makes sense. So that's confusing. Okay. I'm going to say something that I don't know if it's true or not. I'm just going to play devil's advocate, Dom, and we kind of talked about this a little bit off camera. Or I just sent you a message about this. I'm wondering, do the owners want, I'm not saying they want to miss games. I'm saying are they okay with them taking it seems to me that the heat is on them, right? In the media right now. And on social media, and the players are coming off like heroes, right? We want to get a deal done, and where are they, right? So the heat is on the owners, and I'm just wondering if they're okay with that, right? Because once the deal does get done, fans come back to the ballpark to see their heroes, the players. I'm just wondering if that's kind of part of the strategy here, that they're okay with taking the heat, they're okay with missing some games because they know fans are going to come back. It's not like the strike in '94 where the players went on strike and the fans got pissed off and mad and didn't show up for a year or more, right? So what are your thoughts on that, Dom?
I think the owners absolutely are in the crosshairs right now, but at the same time, they live a much more anonymous life than the players do, and that's why the players are trying to get out of it, in front of it on social media. Look, if Mike Trout is posting stuff, that's when you know you did something, right? Like Mike Trout never says anything about anything, so that's something that I take credit for, or I take notice of. And the thing is that Rob Manfred, his job is designed to take the heat. He represents the owners. The owners aren't the ones at the podium. Rob Manfred is the one at the podium. He just does as the owners wish him to do because he is hired by the owners. So while the owners can technically feel the heat by what the players are saying or what the owners are saying or what the fans are saying, at the end of the day, I'd say a majority of owners, if they were walking down the street, most baseball fans would have no idea who they are. I'm just being completely honest. You know, obviously with the Brewers' principal owner and Mark Adonasio, I think a lot of Brewers fans know who Mark Adonasio is. But you talk to somebody in Anaheim, are they going to know who Mark Adonasio is? No. But people in Anaheim maybe will know who Artie Moreno is. People in Texas certainly don't know who the Texas Rangers owners are that well. John Fisher with Oakland, you know, you could see him walking down the street wearing Gap jeans and an Oakland A's hat, and you wouldn't think twice. So the point of it is that they're very quiet by design, trying to stay under the radar. The only one that I can really think of being breaking that mold is Stephen Cohen with the Mets, who's a billionaire, and he hasn't tweeted since New Year's Day. I mean, he's normally been the guy that's been out there and, you know, trying to be in front of things for the Mets since he bought the team 2 years ago. And he hasn't tweeted since November 1st, or since New Year's Day. So I think that tells you a lot of the story right there. I mean, he went on that firestorm of tweets when Steven Matz chose to go to the Cardinals after he says that the agent got the offer from the Mets and that said the Mets would get the final offer. Stephen Cohen was listing off tweets on that, but he's not saying anything about the lockout. So I think that's kind of shows you where everything is right now as far as how the owners are viewed in that regard.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, at the end of the day, my whole thing with that and my whole thought process around that is I hope that is correct. I hope fans show up. Is I don't know, is detrimental as I think this is to the game. I do hope fans show up whenever a deal is done.
Right, doesn't it feel like you're against a rock and a hard place, though?
Yeah.
I don't want to tell fans to not show up, but this is what we talked about last week, saying the people that pay and show up to the games, they're the ones that are still going to be putting the money in the owners' pockets, and it's the owners who locked out the players. So what do you do when you're trying to support the players and show them that you care, but you don't want to help the owners if you feel in that regard? I totally get that paradox that a lot of fans might be in when this hopefully ends soon, but you do have to remember this fact. This is a fact in history. The owners locked out the players. They had the choice to continue negotiating in good faith of saying, we're going to get a deal done before spring training, and we trust that we can get this done appropriately in good communication. But, I mean, that communication has been breaking down since the last CBA and especially came to a head in the 2020 negotiations. But I want to get to the actual offer that was on the table today by the Players Association. Some of the things, obviously, that allegedly foiled the previous week's negotiations came down to competitive balance tax and the postseason eligibility. Let's start with postseason eligibility. No change there. Players still want 12 teams in the postseason. The owners want 14. The reason is that you can charge more money if you have more teams in the postseason for television rights. That's why they want 14. Players fear the lack of competitive spending if half the league gets into the postseason with 14 teams. So that's where the players fear. They are for expanded playoffs just to go to 12. There is no change there. There was also no change to the competitive balance tax. The players are proposing it to start at $238 million, whereas the owners are proposing it to start at $220 million. So they're still $18 million apart there. The players did lower their pre-arbitration pool from $85 million to $80 million, but it's still unclear how many players are going to be eligible for that pool before they reach arbitration. Otherwise, they are still apart on minimum salary by about $25,000 at the start of the deal. They are also apart on the lottery picks. The players want 6 picks. The owners want 5 picks to be subjected to the lottery. And draft pick compensation is still a hairy topic. So hearing all of this, there's a lot going on. And one of our mailbag questions coming up in a little bit talks about expanded playoffs. But I do want to center in on expanded playoffs. Do you think 14 teams would really make that much of a difference versus 12?
That much of a difference in terms of what exactly?
In competitiveness in the way the teams go out and try to acquire talent.
I think it would affect the trade deadline. I think a lot of teams, I think that's going to make that market kind of weird for a lot of teams, and not knowing which teams are going to sell and which teams are going to buy. As far as free agency goes, I don't think it's going to make much of a difference between 12 and 14. But yeah, I think teams are going to probably operate with the idea that, look, we can make it in the playoffs. I think this is going to happen more often than not. I think teams are going to think that they can make it to the playoffs with the roster without acquiring a couple of big name guys to put them over the hump, right? I do think that is probably, I mean, we went through this exercise last week, right, where we kind of looked at, if it was a 14-team playoff, who's making it in? And there's some teams that are under 500 that are making it in that playoffs. Probably
the Phillies would have made it this year at 82-80.
Yeah, so I do think that is going to affect the market. Baseball is in a weird spot though, and I've kind of said this a bunch. Like, do you want to be able to develop talent at the big league level, or be forced to kind of, when I say forced, I'm talking about the salary floor now, kind of forced to sign mediocre players that could be worse than a player that you have in your system if you were to develop him. So it's a tough system. It's a tough argument to, this whole thing is a tough argument to kind of really convince me that the players are in the right here in order to, wanting to get more money spent, because teams have proven that they can win without spending money.
Well, to help you out, there is no salary floor on the table. That is gone.
Right.
There is no salary floor in any of this.
I know. My mind is kind of spinning with all this stuff, and I'm just kind of trying to play devil's advocate to not be technically on the owner's side. I'm just trying to wrap my mind around the best thing for the game. And I think teams have proven that they can win with developing young talent at the major league level. Tampa Bay Rays have done it for years now. Oakland A's have done it for probably 3 or 4 decades now. Brewers have proven to do it. So my whole thing is like there is a little bit of gray area here as to what is going to work for the game as a whole. In terms of increasing that salary cap, and then increasing the number of teams that make it into the playoffs. I get the players are like, okay, teams aren't going to go spend now. But anyway, I'm kind of rambling here with some of these thoughts and ideas. But my point is, like, I don't think they know what is going to actually work in terms of raising the salaries, because again, teams have proven they can win without big salaries.
And to your point about trades, though, at the very beginning of that, I think of a team like the Oakland A's who look like they're going to start tearing things down. But if suddenly you tell me there's going to be 14 teams in the playoffs this year, why would they tear it down? They've got Matt Olson available allegedly, Frankie Montas, Chris Bassett, all of these very talented big leaguers, Sean Manaea, Matt Chapman, that a lot of teams are salivating at the thought of trying to get. But if there are 14 teams making it to the postseason, they could fall out of bed and make it to the postseason by accident, as long as they're right around 500. So I get what you're saying with that. But we'll see what happens next. There is no meeting set in stone for the next meeting between the negotiators. Again, it was today between Dan Halem of Major League Baseball and Bruce Meyer of the Players Association. Just to keep in mind, they canceled the opening week 30 days out. So they canceled opening week on March 1st. Opening week was March 31st. So the next unofficial deadline would be Thursday, the 10th, because the games start April 6th. So there's need to be urgency here, otherwise we're going to lose another 6 games or so. So it's frustrating, but we'll have updates throughout the week. I don't know how else I can say it.
I just feel that they're going to cancel more games. I don't know.
Absolutely.
You just hear
I
that
think
rumor. So, maybe a March 1st opening day. Who knows? I hope not, but we'll see.
Yep. All right. We're going to pay the bills here real quick. Tell you about Built Bar. Here we are, first week of March. Stick with those New Year's resolutions, guys. If eating healthy is one of them, Built Bar can help you get there. They're easy. They're super healthy. The numbers are insane. 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Low calorie, high protein. You can replace candy bars with these. They're better. A typical candy bar is going to have anywhere from 200 to 300 calories. And these Built Bars, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. They've even got these cool little marshmallow puffs. They're literally called puffs. They've got special flavors for those specifically too. And of course at Built Bar, you can see their entire lineup online at built.com. Mint brownie, coconut almond, and they've got new flavors every month. You can see their entire lineup at built.com, BUILT.com. Promo code LOCKED15. That's promo code LOCKED15, and you're going to get 15% off at built.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing number of makes and models, it's impossible for your local auto parts store to carry all of the parts and stock the parts that your car will always need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning and wait for the person behind that counter to order something for you when you can order it yourself at BetOnline? You can save time and money. You're not with BetOnline, with Rock Auto, of course. I'm all over the place right now. I'm just so excited about Rock Auto, Vinny. Why choose to spend 30%, 50%, even 100% more for the same parts for a chain store? And Rock Auto is a family business. They've been serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every single customer. I know I say this last week's episodes. We literally just bought, a headlamp from Rock Auto. I mean, that's not pulling your leg. Like, we just got it the other day. So we told them that Vinny and Dom sent them. All right. So go to rockauto.com right now. You can see all the parts available for your car or truck. If you write Locked On in their How'd You Hear About Us, let them know that we sent you at Locked On. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. All right. Pay the bills. Let's get to the questions. All right, this is what folks are listening for. Mailbag Monday here. Thanks for everybody who did send in a few questions. Let's just put a bow on the question about expanded playoffs, since we did just briefly talk about it, and just say I don't like a 14-team playoff. I would prefer 12. I think that makes more sense. But in the essence of it being a 14-team playoff, I think what you would see is 7 in each league. Obviously, you would have the number 1 seeds get a bye, and maybe the top 2 seeds get a bye, and then number 1 seeds get a bye, and then you have 3-game series head-to-head where the home team hosts all 3 games, and it's a best-of-3 series kind of thing. There's been a variety of formats out there, including a ghost win, which is like what they have in Korea, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm personally in favor of 12.
I'm in favor of 12 too. It makes at the end of the day, it makes the regular season a little bit more meaningful. So, and I mean, I remember the days when there was 4 divisions and only the first place team in each division would get into the playoffs.
Yeah. I
mean, the Brewers, I think it was 1991, Phil Garner's first year. Jeff Cirillo talked about that, I believe. It was a 93-win team, and the Blue Jays, who won the World Series, were fearful of the Milwaukee Brewers, and they didn't get in. I don't know. I'm kind of an old school guy. I like the good old days. I mean, those playoffs, everyone was glued to the TV for every single pitch just because those are the best 4 teams in the league. And so, but I do also see the other side of it where I do want to see, I love playoff baseball as well. So, I don't know. I don't want to see the regular season be diminished that much more. So the 12 teams I feel like is okay. but 14 seems like too much.
And this question comes from Michael, and I don't know if you're familiar with how the Premier League works, by the way, but there is no playoffs in the Premier League. You just play the regular season. Whoever's at the top of the table at the end of the year is the Premier League champion for that year for soccer over across the pond. Do you think that baseball could do their own version? I don't think that would happen just because of the way things are currently set up with television rights and how much money is in the playoffs and the tradition. Obviously, you don't just make a massive change like that during a CBA negotiation like this. It would be cool to see relegations and everything and have like Nashville enter into the league and then, say, Baltimore has to fall out for a year because they're relegated out for their record. I think that'd be a lot of fun, but obviously it's not going to happen.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun, but then you have two Brewers franchises right into the
Right.
Major League Baseball, so that just wouldn't work just the way it's all set up. But no, I mean I do like the playoffs, right? So again, I think that you see the Braves win the World Series because they were the hottest team in the second half, and so I do like that part of it. And so get some more teams in. I just think 14 is too much.
Mm-hmm. All right, a question that kind of piggybacks off of the same. One question comes from Ian. Sorry if this has been asked in a previous episode, but who do you guys see stepping into the DH this year? Someone on the roster, someone they could trade for and sign. We do have an episode on that. I want to say it's 2 Mondays ago. We talked about who will be the Brewers DH in a Mailbag Monday. We've mentioned that if you're going to sign somebody, we both would love Nelson Cruz, but we both believe that it is on the current roster. And it goes into a question from Brock in Sturgeon Bay, not Santa Barbara. Brock says, what will it take for Keston Hiura to return to MLB form? And in my thought, these two answers sync up perfectly. The way that Keston Hiura returns to Major League form, is he hits, and he is your designated hitter.
I'm on board with that. I do think the position change affected him a little bit. I just think he got behind the 8 ball last year mentally, and I think he just dug himself in a hole mentally. And that's easy to do, especially if you're a young player, a new player to the league. And so, yeah, being the DH, worrying about the bat, not have to worry about first base. I do think eventually he's going to be a pretty good outfielder, but not yet. I think he's got to establish the bat, and I do think DH is probably going to be the way that he does that.
Yep. So it needs to be with the bat to both of those questions, and I think it is Keston Hiura is your leader in the clubhouse right now to be your designated hitter for 2022. Our last question here on Mailbag Monday also comes from Brock, and this one I really got deep down in the numbers with, but it's when do you think the Brewers will try to negotiate longer-term contracts with Woodruff and or Burns? I love contract-related stuff, comparing to other guys and getting deep into the analytics and things like that. I'll keep it simple to start things off, then I'll get your thoughts on this. Let's just start with the bases. Both of these guys are entering their first year of arbitration, so you've got them under control for 3 more years, okay, where their finance or what they're owed is going to be less than what the market value is. I mean, for instance, Corbin Burns is projected to make $4 million this year. He's just coming off of a Cy Young year. Okay, so it's not like he's walking into free agency and is going to be commanding $25 million. That's not the case. That's arbitration. Brandon Woodruff, also entering his first year. He's 29 years old, and he's owed $7.1 million projected, according to MLB trade rumors. So let's just start there. What do you think of those numbers, and how would you think to maybe extend these guys?
I mean, I've been quoted in previous episodes that I would extend Corbin Burns into his mid-30s, and then, you kind of cautioned me of that a little bit, in which I don't mind being cautioned on that. I just am a believer in this guy. I'm a believer, and he's kind of like out of the same mold as a Max Scherzer, where he's not going to really age because he is such a competitor. He takes such good care of his body. I think his velo and all of his pitches are going to stay and maintain where they're at, and then he's just going to continue to command the baseball. I do get the risk that's involved in that. So I would like to see the Brewers extend him $200 million into his mid-30s. I have no problem doing that. I don't think he would probably do that at this point. I think he's going to probably try and play free agency. Woodruff, 29 years old. I like this guy too in terms of his ability to maintain his stuff, maintain the velo. I would extend him as well. I don't know if I'd go as high as Corbin Burns in terms of dollar amount, and obviously he is older. But look, I think both these guys are absolute elite competitors, great athletes, going to maintain their bodies and kind of take care of their bodies in terms of staying healthy and maintaining their stuff. So I mean, again, I see the risk in extending pitchers, but these guys present less of a risk in my opinion.
Well, as of now, the only guaranteed contracts at the end of their arbitration period are Christian Yelich's and Freddie Peralta's. Okay, so you're going to have some arbitration decisions in their final year. Not only, we've talked about this on a previous episode of the year ends at the end of these guys. The window closes at the end of these guys' arbitration runs because that's when they will not be affordable anymore for a team like the Brewers. Willie Adames will be in his final year of arbitration. Corbin Burns, Brandon Woodruff, Eric Lauer, Adrian Hauser. I mean, all of your pitching core is entering arbitration at the same time right now. I do just want to give a couple quick comps, and we'll wrap up the episode with this, that the last few biggest, free agent pitcher deals, are Patrick Corbin and Zach Wheeler that are comparable to what Woodruff and Burns could run into. Performed well in their 3 years of arbitration and then go try to get paid in the free agent market. Zach Wheeler got paid $118 million over 5 years, and Patrick Corbin got paid $140 million over 6 years, almost identical annual value. And I think that's where you would be looking if I'm Brandon Woodruff or Corbin Burns' agent. I'm saying, well, if those guys got $23 million a year, my guy better be getting $25 million a year because, quite frankly, they're better than those guys were, especially, and you're buying out arbitration years, so there's a whole lot of things that go with that. I look at Aaron Nola's deal, actually, too. I think you'd like this one. Aaron Nola, before arbitration, signed a 4-year extension for $45 million with a team option that vests for another $16 million. So for 5 years, it could be worth $61 million. It bought out 2 of his arbitration years. So it's something to keep in mind that if you're going to buy out arbitration, it's going to be a pretty penny. And $61 million over 5 years, you're paying $15 million a year, which would be more than what you would be paying in arbitration.
Seems like a bargain. All those deals do seem like a bargain, except Patrick Corbin's. His stuff kind of is backed up a lot. Yes. Wheeler's seems like a bargain now, obviously, because he made a run at the Cy Young. He had a phenomenal second half the year before he signed that deal, but he's been hurt a ton, right? And so I think if Woodruff and Burns kind of can stay healthy, I think in the next couple of years, the Brewers are going to have a big decision to make whether or not they should extend these guys because if they can stay healthy, chances are they will stay healthy. If they get dinged a little bit, that is the number one risk factor for a pitcher getting hurt is history of injury. And that's as simple as that. So if a guy's been hurt in the past, chances are he's going to get hurt again. So like I said, if these guys can stay healthy these next couple of years, they might get paid by the Brewers a big dollar amount to extend this window. Fantastic.
So appreciate the questions from everybody, and we hope you appreciated this episode, your first listen of the day, Locked On Brewers. Tomorrow, we mentioned the interview with Garrett Green. We had to reschedule with everything with traveling schedules, and he also works down in Biloxi and also helps out with UT. So we're trying to knock him down. We're trying to get him for tomorrow's episode. So keep it locked on social media. See with that. We got minor league camp coverage coming this week. Also going to be starting a new series on Thursday, previewing with the team as it currently is situated, and hopefully we get the CBA figured out, right, Vinny?
Please, let's do that.
Please. Fantastic. Thanks, everybody, for listening today. He's Vinny. I'm Dom. We will see you tomorrow. Until then, keep on swinging.
You are Locked On Brewers, your daily Milwaukee Brewers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.